On today's episode, we're talking Patriot Mythology. Stay tuned.
There aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Aaron here. Thanks for coming by and checking out another episode. Now, like I said, we're going to be discussing the topic of Patriot Mythology. So this comes up a lot in the Telegram group and some of the other groups that I'm in, and I gotta say, I was one that went down this path, found it very interesting, did a lot of reading on it, but to no avail. There is a lot of misinformation. So we're going to talk about a few different things about the Patriot Mythology. Then we're going to jump on the computer, take a look at a few documents out of American jurisprudence that kind of backs up what I'm saying. So there's a lot of people that have been pushing this on the internet for decades, and it seemed to have a real big explosion when this whole pandemic came out. So I'm talking about your David Straits, your Anna von Reitz, people like that push this state national, state citizen, not necessarily the whole sovereign citizen thing, because that's a whole nother topic, but it kind of falls in there. And then you have your secured party creditors. If you go on Facebook and type that in, you'll see all kinds of groups that come up on it. And basically the gist of it is that when you were born, and my battery's going to die.
A few moments later.
All right, so I'm back. New battery in the camera, so we should be good to go. So as I was saying, this whole state national movement, I guess, or the secured party creditors or your sovereign citizens, basically the 10,000 foot view is this. And I don't want to get too, into the weeds on this, but I'm assuming most of you have kind of heard this if you're watching this. So basically how it goes is you were born, you came out of a birthing, you were birthed, you came down a birthing canal. Canal has to do with boats. You were taken away, your placenta was left there in the operating room. It's still your genetic makeup. And basically that turns into an all capital letters name, and you are considered dead and lost at sea is how they put it, because a lot of these people think that we're under maritime law and that sort of thing. So they get into the gold fringe flag in the courtrooms or wherever you see them, that that means it's a maritime court and it's not a common law court. Again, this starts to get really crazy, and that there was an account set up based off of your social security number and some other things that if you look it up, you can see an account online with those numbers, and basically it shows you how much money is in this trust account. And so over the years, people have basically said, okay, well, I'm going to figure out a way to access, so they get their birth certificate authenticated all the way up to the highest levels of office. And then they, say, okay, well, that's a straw man account set up. You'll hear that word a lot too. So there's a straw man account set up. And, when I go to court, let me back up. So they have this account and they have this money in it. And what I've seen is basically they want to have a parallel system to what's currently in place. And I think that's just because of lack of knowledge of how the current system works. And if you look at our laws and you look at what the founding fathers had put in place, everything was done really well. We've just mucked it up, and we've gotten fat, dumb, and lazy, and we've hired people to do things for us or put people in positions where they probably shouldn't be, or they're really corrupt and then they don't get impeached. So basically what they want to do is have this, if you look at the Anna von Reitz stuff and the state national, they want to have, basically they call it as putting your feet back onto the land, because they consider you lost at sea when you were born, and the all capital name straw man account and what have you. So I've seen people try to access this quote unquote account, and people I followed over the years, and they actually ended up getting in trouble for wire fraud across state lines.
Say what?
And one guy went through USAA, which is a bank that I use for military and DOD people, and bought like an RV with it, and it basically ended up in jail, and I can't find out what happened to him after that. And there were some other ones, and there's a lot of people that push this stuff out there as it's true and factual, and it's based on laws, and it's not based on much of anything other than mythology. And they'll say, well, there's a natural person, an artificial person. And yes, if you start looking up certain things and you look at the definition of a person, say for tax code stuff, you will see that it includes corporations and stuff like that. That's what they consider a person, and not necessarily an individual. So there's and there's a few others out there that talk about this, that explain it fairly well, along with some case law. But here's the thing: I've never seen it work for anybody 100% of the time. And I've seen more people, these, they get labeled at court a sovereign citizen, and that the laws don't apply to them, and then they lose their court case because they don't understand the simple proceeding. So you'll see, the secured party creditors, that's another key phrase out there. And they kind of teach very similar things. And, they start using the UCC and all these other things that really don't apply to you or I. So that being said, I think a lot of people in the initial stages of this pandemic were looking for an easy way out, or how to get around these mandates and all these other things that were frankly unconstitutional. And we're starting to see that come out in the courts now. And so these people feel that they have, their selves, or, I'm Aaron, but I'm not the all capital letter name Aaron, and that's somebody different. So these clowns go to court and they say, I'm here on, special appearance to settle the account of the all capital letter name, blah, blah, blah. And they go into this stuff and their birth certificate. And, I talked about in the last video with the Amish farmer, how he was throwing his birth certificate and had some weird affidavits in there. And basically what happens is these people fail. So what happens is these people hear of, David Straight, for example, and he came to New Jersey, a few states away, and charges people to come to these seminars and spews out all these wonderful things and all this mystical stuff. And when you ask them to back it up or show me a case law or show me a court case where somebody won using this, they can't, and they get into, you fill out your passport a certain way. So when you get your passport, it's going to tell you, if you get pulled over and you give it to the police officer, it's going to say, do not detain, do not stop, all those horse. I've yet to see it. Nobody's said, hey, here it is. Here's the computer screenshot of it. So anyways, a lot of this stuff comes up, especially when it comes to PMAs. And the thing about PMAs or PEAs or PHAs or unincorporated ministries, unincorporated associations, unincorporated business trusts have been around for a very long time. And they're backed by case law and the Constitution, which is huge. So, we have these tangible things that I can show people and say, yes, this is where your right of association comes from. This is how you can operate as an unincorporated ministry and do ministerial work in your area, or have a private health association or a private education association, or just a private membership association where a bunch of like-minded people want to get together and self-govern and share ideas and better themselves, right? That's the whole point of a private membership association. So that being said, I think I've covered all the stuff I wanted to kind of off the cuff here. But yeah, stay away, again, do what you want. But I haven't seen it work out for anybody. And, I've seen a lot of people spend lots of money on this stuff. But, just do your research, look into it. But, red flag should be if anybody starts talking about a birth certificate, a gold fringe flag, your all capital letter name, a secret trust account that's based off your social security number and some other information off the back of your social security card. Money that's at the Federal Reserve that's for you. And then anything that has to do with the UCC, I can't remember now what it is. It's like the UCC 103 or 301, something like that. And a lot of it sounds like great information. And, part of you, when you read it, it's like, kind of like that story. You're like, I want to believe this is true. This is a way to, fight back, so to speak, and not have things, my rights infringed upon and that sort of thing. Then I'm going to tell you the best way to do that and understand that. Start reading some case law. Start reading your state constitution. Read the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence. Read books that our founding fathers wrote, the Federalist, the Anti-Federalist Papers, any other writings by Adams, Ben Franklin, and the sorts. Check out Chris Ann Hall. Her stuff is fantastic. And for $150, you're going to get a better education than if you went to some Ivy League school. I mean, when it comes to the Constitution and how she explains it and breaks it down and where all the different powers or separation of powers are supposed to be, you really start to see that our government's really mucking things up right now because we're not keeping it limited and we're not making sure that those powers are separated. And then outside of that, if you want to know how the legal system works, not that it's going to, make you a lawyer overnight, but it's going to give you the power and the understanding on how to handle things in court, whether you're getting pulled over by that road pirate or somebody tells you can't come into this place of, this business because you got to wear a mask, or, oh, you're going to lose your job if you don't get the jab, or any other things that might come up, or somebody just does you wrong or trespasses against you or causes you harm. You should know how the legal system works. And, Dr. Graves is another gentleman who's also a licensed attorney who has a jurisdictionary course, or how to win in court without a lawyer. The links will be down below in the description. And it's very important. Again, it's another, I think maybe $90 for his course. And there's so much information on there. You could study it for a year and, have an amazing understanding, more so than the average person, what happens when you go to court. So those are my suggestions as far as furthering your education. And then if you really are into this and really want to know how to protect yourself and how to properly run a PMA or a PEA or PHA or an unincorporated ministry or an unincorporated business trust, those sorts of things, every courthouse has a law library. It's free to go into. You can start reading everything and use that law library and ask her questions or him questions, and they'll get you that information. So what I want to do now is jump on the computer and show you some documents pulled from American jurisprudence, which will give you some more information on the whole Patriot mythology type thing. So let's jump on there.
All right, so here we are on the computer, and this is a document that I'm pretty sure is in the non-compliant group and Telegram group, if you've looked for it. But basically, this is out of the American jurisprudence, constitutional law section 404, and it goes into the free man philosophy as a source of fundamental constitutional rights. And I'm just going to read this one quick section here. Then we're going to look at some case law. So persons are not exempt from regulatory statutes on the basis of the claim that they are a, quote, free man, unquote, and not 14th Amendment citizens with no obligation to obey state or federal law. An individual has no right to unilaterally withdraw from society, rejecting obligations to that body, while at the same time retaining the advantages of the society, advantages for which others have sacrificed part of their liberty. Donning the mantle of a sovereign human being and a common law free man does not defeat the court's exercise of personal jurisdiction. And so we got some cases here. So we're going to look at these really quick. And that way there you can see what we're talking about. So Gordon versus State, here it is here under case text. You can just look this up, pop it into a search, DuckDuckGo, Google, whatever you want to use, and it will pull up some information. And basically this one here is the person was driving. Gordon was cited several times during 1981 to 83 for driving without a license and for operating an unregistered vehicle and for failing to carry proof of vehicle liability insurance. Basically, he went through court. He said here that he was using the police basically violated his rights as a free man. And it goes through here, and then they bring up some other court cases. But as you go down to the bottom, it talks about how that, the drivers of a vehicle are required to have a license. And this brings up the whole traveling versus driving. And yes, there is stuff that you can use if you choose to have that fight every day you get into your car or your truck. But you could cite certain things to say, yes, you don't need a license to travel. But again, that starts to get into the UCC and commerce and a whole nother rabbit hole. So basically, as we go down to the bottom here, this isn't the one that has it. But anyways, although removing the lien placed on a mortgage vehicle arguably evaluates one of a new level of freedom, we do not believe that the state or federal constitution exempts the free man from the regulations imposed here through the state's legitimate use of police powers. Basically saying that the constitutional right to travel does not destroy the independent power of each state under our Constitution. So it's important you understand what your state constitution also says along with the U.S. Constitution. So that was one case. And then this one here, the state versus Florida, I think I'm saying that properly. Again, it's another individual operating under unregistered motor vehicle in violation of their state statutes. One count of not wearing a seatbelt. Let's see, where is it? Let's see, seatbelt, 4 counts of operating a motor vehicle without liability insurance, and 4 counts of operating an unregistered motor vehicle, 2 counts of not wearing a seatbelt while operating a motor vehicle, so on and so forth. So you can see here, and then it goes into a little bit of the background, and basically this individual contends that since he is a free man who is no longer a 14th Amendment citizen, and this is something that you'll hear David Straight and a few others really push that, oh, we're not 14th Amendment citizens. He is not required to register his vehicle, wear a seatbelt, maintain liability insurance. And basically he says, he had all these citations brought against him and it violated his constitutional right, so on and so forth. And it says here that in 1837, the United States Supreme Court held that the state and local governments have the inherent power to enact regulations concerning the health, safety, welfare, and morals of the public. So, and here's the court case here, Charles River. And basically what they're saying is that him operating a vehicle that is unregistered, uninsured, not wearing a seatbelt. I mean, granted, if, I feel 2 different ways about this. If I don't want to get my truck and I want to drive around without wearing a seatbelt and then I hit something and I go through that windshield, well, that's on me. But I also understand where coming from the state level that they want to make sure that, hey, listen, if you hurt yourself, that's one thing. But if you hit somebody else and you're not insured and then you don't have the money to pay for their medical and stuff like that, then I can kind of see where they're pushing this argument. And basically it comes down to that, Florida, I think I'm saying that right, the statutes that he had said violated is regulatory in nature, and no person in the state is exempt from regulatory statutes. Again, here's another court case to look at the citations. Persons are not exempt from regulatory statutes, even if they claim they are a free man who are not 14th Amendment citizens and do not have to obey the state or federal law. And the court goes through and says that they've conducted that Florida has not shown that section 616304, 613301, 611303 of MCA are unreasonable or unconstitutional. We concluded that neither Florida's statutory or constitutional rights were violated by requiring him to register a vehicle, carry liability insurance, or wear a seatbelt. And basically, they just say his argument is without merit and affords no basis for relief. The judgment of the district court is affirmed. So he tried to appeal this, and it didn't happen. And this is what, I don't know how to word this, but when you go to some of these seminars and whether it's David Straight or Anna von Reitz, or, you start looking into this Patriot mythology, a lot of it sounds really good. But then when you bring out the cold, hard facts and say, okay, well, what about this? How, why is it that these free man cases or sovereign citizens or state nationals are losing in court? And here's some cases. Why if this stuff is so good and so easy to do, and you're going to take $3, $4, $5, $1,000 from me or more, how am I going to defeat this stuff if I want to drive around without wearing a seatbelt? Right. So, or I don't want to carry liability insurance. And then we see a lot of the vehicle stuff is usually what comes up. But this, I just want to show you that everything that we talk about on this channel or in the Telegram group or on noncompliant.org is based on actual court cases. So if you know of a way to defeat this, because this is what they're going to use, depending on where you are, this is, and this was in Montana. So, if you're in Montana and you decide you want to live a certain way and do things as you followed somebody online, then you need to know how to defend yourself. And obviously this person didn't do it, and they probably took some course and paid a whole bunch of money. But anyways, I just want people to understand that when I talk about PMAs and what I'm showing you here, that's all based on actual laws, constitutional rights, that sort of thing. You can actually prove it. Again, I would love for somebody to prove me wrong, but I've yet find somebody to tell me here are the court cases where the free man philosophies worked, or the state national or sovereign citizen. And yes, there is a difference between a natural person and a fictional person or corporation, depending on how you start looking at the definition of a person, real and natural person and unnatural person, so to speak, like a corporation, even though they sometimes clump them all together and say that it is a person. I just want everybody to understand that when I'm saying something, I'm not just making it up. Here it is out of the American jurisprudence, and this is what all attorneys and lawyers and judges are going to look at. And this is updated as of, I think this was 2022, something like that, or 2021. But here's some other different things that different court cases they pull up. So anyways, that's what I wanted to share with everybody, that, if you're going to go down this route, make sure you really know how to defend yourself. I'm not saying that that it's not possible. I just haven't seen anybody do it yet. And, I've talked to people that, are living quote unquote as a free man, and they've just been going under the radar. So good for them. But when you do get pulled over, or you want to start those battles and you have private plate on your car and all this other nonsense, or you go into court and say, hey, you don't have jurisdiction here over me because this is a maritime court because of the gold fringe flag, and my birth certificate's been authenticated in my whole capital letters name, and so on and so forth, you're just going to dig yourself a big old fat hole, and you might as well just jump in it. So anyways, this is what I wanted to share with you real quick on my computer screen. So let me jump back off and back on camera.
All right, so as you can see, there's actual legalese that backs up this whole free man and Patriot mythology type of thinking, and how it really doesn't work. And, if somebody knows of somebody that this has worked for, and they have all the proof and all the pudding, and the proof is in the pudding, is that how it goes? But anyways, if you have all that stuff, leave a comment down below. I'd more than happy have you on for a talk and a discussion about this, and bring this information out there. Because again, I've seen more people end up in jail, or spending lots of money. I mean, I had one guy tell me he doesn't pay taxes anymore or anything like that, and the dude lived in a van. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but he doesn't have a house. He that sort of thing. So, and again, the whole tax thing, that's a whole other ball of wax that we can get into at some point in time, should we choose to go down that rabbit hole, because most of us shouldn't be paying the taxes that we are. But, maybe I'll get a couple specials. Maybe I'll get a couple experts on to talk about that one day. But anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, leave comments down below on things you want to see on this channel, or questions you have regarding PMAs. I really appreciate it. See you on the next video. Peace.